The year is 2007 and college football is about to lose its mind.
Down front of the big house, 20, 50. Wow! The Mountaineers have just beaten the Michigan Wolverines.
Over the next 14 weeks, top 5 teams would fall to unranked teams a record 13 times. LSU lost in triple overtime twice.
Deep, intercepted. Matero Richardson, Arkansas wins.
Oregon was unstoppable until one play shattered everything.
Dixon goes down in real pain. What happened? Left leg plants awkwardly.
Kansas became a title contender, and West Virginia, on the doorstep of destiny, was undone by a game that still haunts Morgantown to this day. But going into the year, everything seemed perfectly normal. USC was at the top, loaded with NFL talent. LSU's defense looked as menacing as ever. Florida had Tim Tebow back for his much-anticipated sophomore year. And up north, Chad Henne and Mike Hart were plotting their redemption tour after falling just short the year prior. But unfortunately for them, the 2007 Chaos Tornado would hit Michigan first. On opening weekend, Appalachian State walked into the Big House as a 33-point underdog, but most of the nation didn't realize that the Mountaineers were back-to-back FCS champs and would not be an easy out. Their star quarterback, Armani Edwards, made that clear immediately, making one play after the next. And after scoring 21 straight points in the second quarter, App State took a stunning 28-17 lead into half. But after getting rocked, Michigan collected themselves behind their star back. Mike Hart did everything he could to avoid a humiliating loss, scoring on 2 rushing touchdowns, including an incredible 54-yarder in the fourth to retake the lead. But the Mountaineers refused to lose. Even after a devastating late fourth quarter interception from Edwards, the App State defense showed up, blocking their first field goal of the game. Edwards returned the favor by marching his team down the field to hit a go-ahead field goal with just 26 seconds left. But miraculously, Chad Henne would connect with Mario Manningham on a prayer to give them a shot at a game-winning field goal with 6 seconds left. The rest is history. App State blocks the attempt, silencing the Big House and stunning the nation with one of the sport's greatest upsets of all time. The Michigan faithful were stunned. The shockwave of this upset was so big, it carried into next week, when once again the Big House took center stage for another announcement. This time, it'd be the announcement of Dennis Dixon and his Oregon Ducks. In just the first 2 quarters, Dixon threw an 85-yard touchdown pass, a 61-yard touchdown pass, and had a rushing touchdown. By halftime, Oregon was up 32-7, and Michigan's season was officially over. As the Wolverines fell, LSU was playing like a team possessed. They demolished Mississippi State 45-0 in their opener, then followed that up by humiliating 9th-ranked Virginia Tech 48-7. Out west, top-ranked USC opened by dropping nearly 50 points in back-to-back games against Nebraska and Washington State. Meanwhile, Oklahoma was beating teams even worse behind their new star quarterback, Sam Bradford. He'd throw for 5 touchdowns and a 51-point beatdown against Miami. As for West Virginia, Pat White and Steve Slayton looked unstoppable. Against Marshall, they'd score 5 touchdowns and run for a combined 273 yards. But in 2007, no player was bigger than Tim Tebow. After playing a key part as a true freshman in Florida's 2006 national championship run, expectations were sky high. On opening day, he set the tone by scoring 4 touchdowns against Western Kentucky. He followed that up with 5 total touchdowns against Troy. And after a 4-touchdown, 59-20 annihilation of rival Tennessee, it looked like nothing could stand in the way of this Gator freight train. But then came the weekend of September 28th. If Appalachian State sparked the match, this weekend lit the fuse. It started on Friday night when 5th-ranked West Virginia traveled to South Florida, a team that had soared up to the 18th-ranked spot behind their own dual-threat quarterback, Matt Grothe. South Florida had just put themselves on the map by beating Auburn and were about to show the world they were for real this year. A pick 6, followed by a 55-yard touchdown pass, gave the Bulls an early lead. And in the second half, their defense would send the game home, ultimately forcing 6 turnovers to upset the Mountaineers. But that game was only the tip of the iceberg, as the next day, 4 more top 10 teams would fall. Oklahoma's unstoppable offense came to a screeching halt in Colorado, as Bradford threw 2 picks and the Buffaloes mounted a 17-point fourth quarter comeback. Down in Gainesville, Tebow mounted his own fourth quarter comeback, but fell short as Auburn hit a walk-off game-winning field goal. Out in Austin, defense and special teams would crush the Longhorns. Colt McCoy threw 4 picks, one a pick 6, while their special teams let up 2 80-yard return touchdowns in a 41-21 loss to Kansas State. The last team to go was 10th-ranked Rutgers, who despite Ray Rice's 130-yard performance, would get upset at home to Maryland 34-24. Before as chaotic as the last weekend of September was, it would pale in comparison to what was to come in October. October exploded right into the the madness starting in Los Angeles. USC had just escaped Washington, surviving with a 27-24 win. Luckily for them, 1-3 Stanford was coming into town without their starting quarterback. USC was favored to win by 41 points, but no one told Jim Harbaugh that. His defense came to play, holding USC to just 10 points in the first half. In the third quarter, that defense turned up the heat. They forced a fumble and 2 interceptions. One of those they returned for a touchdown. But the fourth quarter is when the magic happened. The two teams would trade scores, Stanford punching in a score on the 1-yard line, with USC responding with a 50-yard touchdown pass. But after John David Booty's third interception of the game, Stanford had a chance to make history. And it'd be their backup quarterback, Tebow Pritchard, who'd do it. With just over 2 minutes to go, Pritchard led an incredible drive, one that included a 4th and 20 conversion to future NFL cornerback Richard Sherman. A few plays later, he'd find Mark Bradford in the corner of the end zone for the go-ahead score. The Memorial Coliseum was stunned silent. Jim Harbaugh had slain the mighty Trojans, but this was just the start, as USC would prove to be the first domino to fall in the crazy month of October. Only 1 week later, the Chaos Tornado turned its sights towards Lexington. LSU, the newly top-ranked team, was heading in to face Kentucky. The Tigers, who had looked invincible up until this point, were expected to dominate, but by halftime, they found themselves in a dogfight. Kentucky's quarterback, Andre Woodson, was a playmaker. He'd throw for a touchdown in the first, then rush for one in the second to give LSU only a slight 17-14 lead. But in the third, it looked like LSU would finally separate. Matt Flynn threw a touchdown pass to Richard Dixon. Then the Tiger defense picked off Woodson, leading to another 3 points and a 27-14 lead. But Woodson would not give up, recovering with a touchdown pass before leading his team on 2 field goal drives to tie the game up with 4 minutes to go. Flynn drove his Tigers into position for a game-winning field goal, but 57 yards was too much for kicker Colt David. In overtime, the teams traded punches. Kentucky struck first on a 1-yard run. LSU matched them. And after back-to-back field goals, we entered a third overtime period where the teams would have to go for 2. On 3rd and 7, Woodson connected with future NFL wideout Stevie Johnson to take a 6-point lead. While their 2-point conversion would fail, the pressure was now on the top-ranked Tigers. But the Wildcat defense would step up, stuffing Charles Scott on a 4th and 2 to complete one of the greatest wins in Kentucky football history. With LSU falling, second-ranked California had a golden opportunity. For the first time in program history, they were set to become the top-ranked team. As the LSU news reached the stadium, California fans erupted in celebration, chanting, "We're number one," across the stadium. But Oregon State had different plans. Their running back, Evanson Bernard, ran wild on the Golden Bears, going for over 163 yards as he led the Beavers over Cal in a heartbreaking upset. As LSU and Cal both collapsed in historic fashion, Ohio State jumped up to the number 1 spot. And after boat racing UCF 64-12, incredibly, USF found themselves in the second-ranked spot. But in the year 2007, that was the worst position to be in. On a Thursday night in Piscataway, the Bulls found their matador in the form of a red scarlet knight. At first, Rutgers and South Florida traded blows, with USF taking a slight 17-13 lead into halftime. But to start the third, a 69-yard Taekwon Underwood touchdown gave Rutgers the lead, and they never looked back. They leaned on their star back, Ray Rice, who'd piled up 180 yards to secure Rutgers' second upset win over a top 3 team in back-to-back years. South Florida's demise gave way to another up-and-comer. This one was way up in Boston, led by a future NFL star. Yes, Boston College, the team best known for Doug Flutie's Hail Mary back in 1984, found themselves as the nation's second-ranked team. The main reason for that was due to their Heisman-caliber quarterback, Matt Ryan. In Week 1, he tossed 5 touchdowns to beat Wake Forest. He threw for 435 yards in an upset win over 15th-ranked Georgia Tech. And to cap it off, he led an incredible fourth-quarter comeback to beat 8th-ranked Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Meanwhile, Oregon was flying up the ranks. After a tough loss in late September at the hands of Deshaun Jackson's California Golden Bears, the Ducks got rolling. Dixon threw for 287 yards against Washington State. Stewart ran for 270 against Washington, and the two combined for 3 touchdowns in a hard-fought 24-17 win over 9th-ranked USC. By the end of October, they looked like a bona fide title contender led by the Heisman favorite. But right on their tail was another rising Pac-10 challenger out in Arizona. In his first year in Arizona State, Dennis Erickson had the Sun Devils on a 90s hurricane run. They won 8 straight, dropping 30 or more in almost every game, including a 31-20 win over 18th-ranked California. Going into November, both Arizona State and Oregon were on a collision course to see who could take USC's spot as the leader out west. But as these programs were rising, another top program was falling, that one being down in Gainesville. Following the Auburn stunner, Florida experienced another heartbreaker. Against the top-ranked LSU Tigers, Florida took a 24-14 lead into the fourth quarter, but the Tiger defense came up clutch, forcing a Tebow pick that allowed LSU to escape with a 28-24 fourth quarter comeback win. 2 weeks later, Noshawn Moreno stomped out any chance the Gators had with his 200-yard, 3-touchdown performance. While Florida's title's hopes evaporated, Tebow proceeded to put on performances that would win him the Heisman in historic fashion. He'd score 5 or more touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games, including a legendary 7-touchdown performance against South Carolina. But as Florida was playing to win Tebow a Heisman, November would introduce a magnitude of chaos that some programs still haven't gotten over. The next victim would be that feisty Boston College team. After their incredible Virginia Tech comeback, the clock finally struck midnight on the Eagles' Cinderella run. Matt Ryan threw 2 picks against Florida State, digging his team into a 20-10 fourth quarter hole. For a moment, it looked like he'd mount another fourth quarter comeback after his touchdown pass to Ryan Purvis. But with a minute left, he threw his 3rd pick of the game, this one to Geno Hayes, who put the dagger into the Eagles by taking it back to the house. On the same day Boston College blew up, Oregon made a statement against Arizona State. Dixon came out hot. He threw 3 straight touchdown passes to give the Ducks a 21-3 lead. Arizona State would claw their way back into the game, bridging the gap to only 5 points after a 50-yard field goal. But the Dixon-Stewart combo was too much. They'd each score in the 3rd to solidify the win and shoot the Ducks up to the 2nd-ranked spot with only 3 games left. While the Ducks were soaring, the Buckeyes were on cruise control. They were 10-0 with the nation's best defense, only really getting tested once when they needed their star back Beanie Wells to help them beat Wisconsin in the fourth quarter. If any team looked like a sure bet to survive this season, it was the Buckeyes. On November 10th, Illinois came into the Horseshoe as a double-digit underdog, but they played like the exact opposite. Juice Williams, their dual-threat quarterback, played like a star that night. Anytime Illinois needed a play, he made it, no matter the down or distance. That playmaking ability would ultimately be the Buckeyes' Achilles heel. With around 8 minutes to go, Ohio State desperately needed a stop to get the ball back and tie up the game, but Juice engineered a drive that saw 1 third-down conversion after the next, running out the clock and securing the stunning upset. This November loss would be the start of 7 top 3 ranked teams losing in the next 4 weeks. Just 5 days after Ohio State fell, that red-hot Oregon team traveled to take on a 4-6 Arizona team. While this seemed like it'd be a walkthrough, Dennis Dixon was battling a significant knee injury. In the previous Arizona State game, he tweaked his knee but had fought through it. No one knew at the time it was a torn ACL, and just 9 minutes into the game against Arizona, it completely gave out on him. On a routine option play, Dixon planned to make a cut, but instead collapsed, grabbing his knee in agony. Oregon Nation gasped as they knew that one play ripped up their title hopes along with Dixon's Heisman campaign. Brady Leaf, Ryan Leaf's younger brother, came in to try to salvage the Ducks season, but he was overmatched. A pick 6, followed by an Arizona punt return touchdown, was too much for Oregon to overcome as they'd lose 34-24. 2 days after Oregon fell, 3rd-ranked Oklahoma had a chance to redeem themselves after that early season falter against Colorado. Unfortunately for them, standing in their way was Mike Leach and a Texas Tech offense that had an unguardable freshman by the name of Michael Crabtree. Oklahoma started strong, forcing Graham Harrell to throw a pick 6 on the opening drive, but from there, it was all Texas Tech. Sam Bradford would get knocked out of the game with a concussion only a couple drives later. Then the Red Raiders laid it on him. A Crabtree 60-yard bomb led to a score, followed by Crabtree grabbing his own touchdown. By half, Texas Tech had a 27-10 lead and seemed unstoppable. The Sooners would attempt a comeback, but fall short as they were the next domino to fall over. But in the final 2 weeks, the 2007 Chaos Tornado would level the top of the field, starting in Baton Rouge. On Black Friday, LSU, now back as the top-ranked team, welcomed Arkansas into Death Valley. Only 1 year ago, it was LSU who spoiled Arkansas's run. This year, Darren McFadden was prepared to return the favor. After a quiet first half, the floodgates opened up for the nation's best running back. Late in the 3rd, McFadden took a wild hog direct snap 73 yards to grab the lead. Jacob Hester responded for the Tigers, only for Peyton Hillis to take a 65-yarder to the house. The scoring was just getting started. Matt Flynn connected with Demetrius Byrd to tie it back up, only for McFadden to throw his own touchdown pass to Hillis for a late 28-21 lead. But LSU would hang in there, scoring the game-tying touchdown with a minute left. Overtime was is pure cinema, directed by Hillis himself. After a Flynn LSU touchdown to kick things off, Hillis would convert a 4th and 10 to keep Arkansas alive. He'd follow that up with a wheel route touchdown. Then, after matching scores by both teams in the second overtime, Hillis would rush for the go-ahead score to start the third overtime. His defense would bring it home, picking off Flynn's 2-point conversion attempt and seemingly ending the Tigers' title dreams in Death Valley. The very next day, Kansas, yes, the basketball school, had a chance to become the top-ranked team. Behind quarterback Todd Reesing, they had soared up to become the second-ranked team, averaging 42 points a game. But standing in their way was an equally talented Missouri squad, who had 2 offensive stars in Chase Daniel and Jeremy Maclin. Under the lights at Arrowhead Stadium, Missouri seized the moment. Daniel was sensational, completing 40 passes, 10 of those to Maclin, as he threw for 361 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the Tiger defense would be the difference maker, stopping a fourth-quarter comeback attempt to beat the Jayhawks 36-28. Yet, in true 2007 fashion, the Missouri celebration only lasted until the following week's Big 12 championship game. Going into that game, Missouri was now the top-ranked team. Win, and they play in their first national championship ever. But standing in their way was a team all too familiar with producing in big moments. And that's exactly what the Sooners did. Oklahoma's defense stifled the Tiger offense, holding Daniel to only 200 yards passing, 0 passing touchdowns, and an interception. When the clock struck 0, the Sooners were Big 12 champs for the second straight year, and Missouri's title dreams evaporated before their eyes. But that loss would pale in comparison to the result of that year's backyard brawl. Following their slip up to USF, Pat White's Mountaineers went on a tear, smashing ranked teams in Rutgers, Cincinnati, and UConn to fly all the way back up to number 2. All they had to do was beat a 4-7 Pitt team that they were 28-point favorites against at home, but the Panther defense was relentless that night, forcing one field goal attempt after the next, which West Virginia would miss. If that raised concern levels, Pat White's second quarter injury skyrocketed them. Outside of a Jarrett Brown touchdown on that same drive, West Virginia wouldn't see the end zone for the rest of the game. The Panther defense smothered the Mountaineer offense, while LaShawn McCoy carved up their defense, doing just enough to take a 10-7 lead into the fourth. While Pat White would return, the last quarter belonged to the Panthers defense, who forced a fumble and 2 turnover on downs to secure a shocking 13-9 win. For the final time that year, the number 2 team fell, this time on the doorstep of a national championship appearance in a gut-wrenching loss that haunts the Mountaineers to this day. When the dust finally settled, it'd be the Ohio State Buckeyes, a team who was ranked 7th when they last played, versus the 5th-ranked 2-loss LSU Tigers, who'd get selected by the BCS to play in the national championship. On January 7, 2008, LSU walked onto home turf in the Superdome like a cat with 9 lives. They'd lost in triple overtime twice. They had a quarterback held together by duct tape, but they found themselves in the national championship with a chance to finish the wildest season of all time by doing something no 2-loss team had ever done in the modern era: win a national title. But they came out flat. It only took 4 plays for Beanie Wells to rip off a 65-yard touchdown. The Buckeye defense would then force a 3-and-out, followed by a field goal drive to take a quick 10-0 lead in the first. A late field goal would salvage an otherwise quiet quarter for the Tigers, but in the second quarter, they'd roar to life. Flynn would start the second with a TD pass to Richard Dixon. The Tiger defense would block the Buckeyes' ensuing field goal attempt, allowing Flynn to march down and take the lead on a 10-yard pass to Brandon LaFell. A quick pick by Chevis Jackson, along with a Jacob Hester touchdown, gave the Tigers a 24-10 lead going into half. The second half brought more LSU domination. After a devastating roughing the punter penalty on Ohio State extended LSU's drive, Flynn capitalized with a short touchdown to Early Doucette. A Malcolm Jenkins pick tried to give Ohio State life, but the LSU defense called game in the fourth. They turn over Beckman twice, first with a strip sack, then with another pick to seal the game. In a year of total chaos, it was only fitting that LSU, a team that had lost in triple overtime twice, would become the first 2-loss team in the modern era to win a national championship. Thanks for reliving the crazy season that was 2007 with me. If you enjoyed this recap, I think you'll like this next one as well.